The world is sick because you are sick with confusion. Murdo MacDonald-Bayne. You seek me, not because you saw the miracles, but because you ate bread and were filled. Do not work for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures unto life everlasting, which the Son of Man will give you, for this one God the Father has sealed. John 6:26-27. What I want to say in this letter is of a very popular and personal nature. It is one of healing, not in the sense that we generally look upon healing of our own minds and bodies, but of the nature of healing of the world which is ourselves. When we can see that the cause of the confusion of the world is ourselves, we must heal ourselves first. When we do not see the cause of confusion is ourselves, then this confusion will continue to express itself upon our minds and bodies and likewise in the world. Sickness is but the outward expression of our inner confusion. When we begin to see that the individual human mind is an expression of the universal divine mind and that the individual human mind is the specialized reproduction of the universal divine mind, we see that the individual mind can give expression to the universal, for this is exactly what takes place when the individual understands that he and she are in the whole and the whole is in him and her, and its expression is divine wisdom, love and power, and this combined action produces what we call creation, in which there is no confusion. The Bible attributes the creation of the world to the divine word, and it therefore rightly says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and without the Word was not anything made that was made." This brings us to the crowning result in the manifestation of the Word of man. Man, first ignorant of his divine nature, but nevertheless containing all the potentialities of the nature of God, the Father having life in himself granted the Son to have the same life in himself. When man then looked outside himself for guidance, he accepted this guidance and became confused by the many ideas which confronted him. But when he finds that this confusion is of the mind of man, he realizes that this confusion which existed within himself was transferred outwards into the world. The world became sick as well as himself. Through the discovery of his true relationship to the divine mind, he arises and returns to the Father. Thereby, being a child of the Almighty, he can speak the word of power through the divine potentialities inherent within himself. He may have been the prodigal son who is ignorant of this truth, or he may be the respectable brother who thought that only limited supplies were doled out to him. But as soon as the truth dawned upon him, he realized the meaning of the words, "Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine." Here we become fellow workers with the Father of all, invited to work in harmony with one another in his vineyard, to carry on the work of the universal, the whole vested in man himself. The key is found in the Master's words, "The Father worketh hitherto, and I work." All that I can do in this letter is to point this out to you, but you must make your own personal application of it. For the law remains forever the same, that through action in divine truth is produced the corresponding unfoldment of truth. The supreme truth is reached in that final recognition of the divine name. God is love, therefore our action must be love to express the divine mind in man. Now comes the question, how can we solve the present chaos in our minds and bodies and in the world? We may solve the problem of our bodies from an external point of view temporarily, but to heal permanently we must solve the problem of our minds and our reaction in our relationship with others. If war is waging within ourselves, it will eventually externalize itself in our minds, bodies, and in the world, for we are the world. War in the world is the spectacular and bloody projection of our everyday life. War is merely an outward expression of our inward state, an enlargement of our daily action. It is perhaps more bloody, more destructive, but it is the collective result of our individual thought and action. Obviously, we have not discovered the cause because we have not discerned the cause within ourselves. We are therefore responsible for war, internally and externally. If we can see what creates wars, and if we are interested in stopping wars, then we can begin to transform ourselves, who are the cause of the war, internally and externally. What is it that causes this war? Craving for things, belief in either nationalism, in ideologies, or in particular dogmas which create in ourselves antagonists, ill will, and all the things that set into operation the cause of strife, internally and externally. If we had no belief but goodwill, love, wisdom, which would develop brotherly consideration between us, then there would be no wars inside or out. What most cannot or will not discern is that we are fed with propaganda, we are fed with antagonistic ideas towards each other, fed on dogmas and national divisions and hatreds which breed confusion within our minds and bodies and breed discontent in families, groups, and nations. We can either pursue a path of constant conflict and continuous war within and without as the result of our everyday action, or we can discern the cause of war and arise and return to the Father, thereby becoming a child of the Almighty and speaking the word of power through the potentialities of love and wisdom inherent within us. Thus we have peace in and out. Is not our action in ignorance of our divine nature the cause of war? We desire the outward show of power, position, prestige. Are we not diseased with what we call nationalities? We all worship a flag. We are diseased with organized religion, so we worship a dogma. We are diseased with greed, diseased with envy, therefore we are producing our own society which leads to our destruction of minds, bodies, and circumstances through war within and without, created by ourselves. Therefore it does not depend upon our leaders, it depends upon ourselves, but we do not seem to realize that. If we really felt the responsibility of our own actions, we could bring about an end to all this war within and without and all the appalling misery we create for ourselves and others. But if we are indifferent because we have 3 meals a day, a job, a banking account, etc., we do not want to be disturbed, so we add more coals to the fire because of our action towards others. We want to maintain things as they are, but there is nothing to maintain. Everything is disintegrating about us. We do not want to face the fact that we are responsible for war within and without. We may talk about health schemes, we may talk about peace, sit around a table and discuss, yet inwardly maintain our greed, selfishness, our antagonisms, our ideas, our nationalities, our intrigues, our actions in our relationship to others. If we are bound by our beliefs, our dogmas, for which we are willing to die and destroy each other, do you think we can have peace inwardly and outwardly? To have peace, inwardly and outwardly, we must be peaceful. To live peacefully means not to have hatreds, antagonisms, cravings. Peace is not an ideal, it is a way of life, living in love and wisdom which is eternal and ever-present and within ourselves, by knowing that we are all working in His vineyard and in harmony with one another. An ideal is merely an escape, an avoidance of what is, a contradiction of what is. An idea prevents the direct action of what we must do is to love and not merely have ideals but to see things as they are and act upon them by discerning the cause of all misery, thereby transforming ourselves. But what are we doing? We are seeking a psychological security which does not exist. We seek it through power, position, titles, rank, all of which destroy our physical security. This is plain enough to see if you look at it through clear thinking, unattached. Economic revolution without inward revolution is useless and meaningless. Hunger and misery are the result of our internal action, of our mental state, our greed, envy, ill will and possessiveness. To put an end to these things which cause misery both internally and externally, we must transform ourselves, not merely discuss peace plans, create new leagues of nations and legislation, inaugurate new health schemes and so on and so on. We will never win peace and eliminate confusion until we cease to live our stupid lives as we are doing today. As sickness increases in the individual, so will it increase in the world, for the world is made up of individuals. Others cannot bring peace, leaders cannot bring peace. What will bring peace is inward transformation and not isolation. Inward transformation is not isolation, is not withdrawal from outward action. On the contrary, it is right action and right thinking, and there can be no right thinking without self-knowledge. Without knowing yourself there can be no peace, inwardly or outwardly. So when we end war and confusion within, we will end war outwardly. This can only be done by putting an end to this confusion and war within. This will end only when you realize your own responsibilities, when you realize the danger you are to yourself. This requires immediate action, for peace comes only within and without when we are peaceful, when we are at peace with ourselves and with others, by loving your neighbor as yourself. They that are whole do not need a physician, but they that are sick. Go ye and learn what that means. Matt 9:12-13. Benediction. O great eternal one, Thou art whole and complete. Thou art love, wisdom, and power. Thou art our Father who art in heaven. Man has through his ignorance created confusion within and without, thus he creates his own hell. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, to arise and return to thee, O Divine One. Then we are made whole, for thou alone art my physician who dwells within me. I am no longer sick, O Eternal One, neither will my world be, for thou art within me, my beloved. My peace and my love remain with you. Yours very sincerely, Murdo MacDonald-Bayne.